Hey, welcome to Blackberry Ridge. Today we're going to have us another canning tutorial. When I went to church, I had somebody that gave me a bag of apples, and then somebody, with those things like you get at the grocery store, little bags. And then I had somebody a few days ago also gave me one of those bags of apples. So here I had these 2 bags of apples, and I wanted to make sure that they got processed before they got flies in them, fruit flies especially. Um, and it's such a pretty day today. I probably should be outside working, but you know what? I wanted to be in here with y'all. So let's talk about what we've got going here. Okay, we are going to be canning apples. So what I have done is I have taken all the apples and I have peeled them. I cut them in half. And then I cut those halves into quarters, and then I took the core out, and most of them I have cut into eighths. Now these were old-timey apples. I asked both of the people who gave me the apples, and I got the same answer from both of them. And they were obviously 2 different kinds of apples, but the answer that I got from both of them, these are just old-timey type of apples. The tree's been there for a long time. Nobody probably remembers what kind of apples they were. So they had been eaten off of them forever, so they said, they were really good apples. And the ones that I got were the ones that were a little bruised up or whatever, and of course, there was no pesticides. Thank God there was no pesticides or anything like that on the apples. So there were some bug bites and stuff on it. So what I did was that when I peeled the apples, I put the peels into one pot, or into one pan, and we're going to be making apple jelly from that. I took the cores and I pulled some of the seeds out of some of them, and I'm going to see if I can't get some seeds going from, or some plants going, some little trees going from these seeds, so we can add them to our little orchard that we've got going in the back side of the garden. And so I had the cores and bad spots, like if they were bruised up or banged up, or if they had, a bug bite or whatever, I put that in the that plate. And I ended up giving that plate, sorry, I got y'all rocking here. I ended up giving that plate to, threw it over and gave it to the animals. And there was almost a fist fight between the goats, the donkey, the cows, and the chickens over those pieces of apples. It was probably not a smart idea for me to throw them out there and then let them sort of bang each other up, because they were, it was definitely a free-for-all trying to get those pieces of apples. And then on the other thing is that I took another pot, and I have put all the pieces that we're going to be using today, and I covered the apples with a couple of plates so that it would be down under the water. And it also has been processed, or been sitting here with something that is called Fruit Fresh. Okay, which is used for helping to keep the produce from turning brown. So it's had Fruit Fresh that's been put in here. And as you can see, I cut the pieces up to about this size. Because when they get processed, they're going to shrink down some, because the air is going to pull out of them, so they're going to shrink down some. The way we're going to process these today is I am not going to put in a lot of special seasonings into it. I like to keep this as versatile as possible, so when we open up these jars, I may want to take and just put them in a small pot and add a little bit of brown sugar and cinnamon to that, and then we may just have some fried apples on the side for breakfast or to put on a biscuit. Ambria loves fried apples. So like when you go to the Cracker Barrel and they have the fried apples as one of the side dishes that you can get. It tastes like that. Put a little bit of butter in it also. That really adds a lot to it. Okay, so we can do that, or I can take and I can add brown sugar and cinnamon, maybe a little nutmeg or allspice. And I can take and I can make some dough, and I can make some fried apple pies using that. We can take and we can make apples and put it like over like a small pork roast, or put it on the side of a small pork roast, and that adds a lot of flavor and really complements the pork roast. So as long as I keep this as simple as possible, then we can make it to where it's more versatile, and then we open up the jar is when we can add all the ands, ifs, and buts to it to make it into what we want for that particular side dish. Gives us more options that way. So what I have in this pot right here is I've got my syrup pot, and I tasted the apples and they were a little bit tart. They were very tart, so I wanted to sweeten them up just a little bit in the jar. So what I have done is I've taken 8 cups of water, and I have added about 2 3/4 cup to 3 cups of sugar. And that's all that's in here, is just 8 cups of water with it was probably closer to 3 cups of sugar that I put in here. In this pot back here, we have our pot that has the lids and the rings in it. And of course over in this pot, we have our water bath canner. We are going to water bath can these today. And I've got our jars in here. We're going to put them up in pints. So we've got our jars. And it's in boiling water. So we've got our hot water that's going here. So first thing that I'm going to do is I need to bring this, my syrup pot, up to a boil. While that's coming up to a boil, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drain the fruit fresh. So right before I come back, I'm going to have drained the fruit fresh off of our apples here. We got a pretty nice pot of apples. I'm not sure how many we're going to get, how many jars, but I did put 10 pints in here. Hopefully we'll get the 10 pints. Okay, I'll be right back with you when this comes up to a boil. And I wanted to also let you all know that this recipe that I'm using is in the Ball Blue Book, Guide to Preserving. And we are on page 17. Let's see if I can get this. And up here at the top, it's got the recipe for what you do for apples. Maybe you all can put this on your screen and make it bigger. The other thing that it has is on page 16. It has a guide to the different, let me open this up. It has a guide to the different syrups. I can't see if with the book here if I'm getting it for y'all, but it has a guide to the different syrups on page 16. And if y'all are going to be canning at all, you need to at least get a Ball Blue Book. They're not very expensive. I mean, I definitely think this was under $10. And this is the updated one, or one of the updated ones. It's a good thing to have in your arsenal, or in your book library. All right, I'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. All right, what we've done is I have gone ahead and I have drained all the fruit fresh water off of our apples here, and we've got the syrup. It's boiling. I guess you can hear that kind of boiling over here. Another thing, just for full disclosure, just to let you know what I have done is the recipe book here, it says if you're doing apples for baking, it says to add lemon juice to your jars, and the recipe that I was using here doesn't say anything about adding lemon juice. So I had lemon juice in the refrigerator. So I went ahead and I added 3 tablespoons of lemon juice to our 8 cups of water and 3 cups of sugar. Couldn't hurt, just saying. Alright, so I'm going to get this plate off of our apples here. And I'm going to put the apples in this hot, I'll put some of them in here so it doesn't splash out so much on me. In this hot syrup. Okay, and of course I had to feed the stove. I'm always feeding the stove something. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to let this sit in this hot syrup. Oh yeah, this looks nice. It's just the right amount. Sit in this hot syrup here, and we're going to let this parboil for 5 minutes. Now, So we're going to be having hot jars, hot lids, hot rings, and hot food. We're going to be putting in our jars, and hot syrup. All right. After this sits around and cooks for about 5 minutes, we'll be back. Woohoo! Okay, we're back. Okay. Timer's getting ready to go off on our apples. They have been boiling for the prescribed time, 5 minutes. Oh, it smells great in here. Okay. Now these apples did break down quite a bit. I think it's because they were maybe a little bit overripe to begin with. You can see, I can see at least, there's 2 different kinds of apples in here. So we can get this, we all can see. You see one of these is more white and this one's more yellow. So this came from the 2 different bags of apples that I had. Okay. Get that timer turned off. Okay. Switch out some spoons here. Okay, we got our hot jars that have been boiling and boiling and boiling. First thing that I want to do is I want to take some of the water. Turn this fire off. Take some of the water out of a couple of these jars, and here's my lids and rings. I want to use this hot water to put in with my lids and rings. Woohoo! Alright, put this right here. Okay. So we are going to fill to about a 1/2 inch headspace. Yeah, these are going to be more like an apple chunk, it looks like. Now one thing when you are doing your canning apples, you know, it's better to have some that are the more firmer, denser apples than the ones that may be considered hand or table eaten apples. This is going to be a good use for these. Okay. So we've got it filled to the 1/2 inch headspace. We're going to take our debubbler and make sure that there's no air bubbles in there. And you're just sticking this debubbler down all the way to the bottom, pushing towards the center, and then you go to the center and you push back and forth. Now we're going to take a cloth, or you can use a paper towel, and it's got vinegar on it, and we're going to wipe our ring. You're going to need something like this. It's called a lid lifter. Now, full disclosure here, the manufacturers of the lids are now saying that it is not necessary to heat the lids or the rings. But this is the way I have been doing it now for 40 years, and I'm sure they have probably changed their whatever they're using for the red stuff that goes around the lid. But I do it also, though, because I've got a hot jar and I've got hot product, and I don't want to put a cold lid and a cold ring on there, just because when things are hot and cold, they expand and contract at a different rate. And so I want everything to be hot and then expanded when it goes on. Ouch. I want it to be expanded when it goes on. Ah, it's hot. So, so that I feel like I get less of a fail rate that way. Okay, so we've got a hot lid that I've just put on, and I've got a hot ring. I always put my finger on the center my finger and kind of hold that down just a little bit, and that just keeps the lid from spinning around. Whoever sent me the gift card for Walmart, I just want you to know, I got me this pretty hand towel. I have not bought any hand towels in the longest time. And so I just want you to know that thank you so much. One of the things that I did get me was this pretty hand towel. Okay, what I do is that I pick the jar up and I put it in the towel. Then I tighten it down the rest of the way and I carry it to the pot in the hand towel. Use the lid lifter or the jar lifter and put it in the pot. Okay. Pot jar. Poke those down. I'm going to get just a little bit of the juice and raise the level with that syrup. Okay, now we're going to go and we're going to debubble. Okay, now I see a little spot that's in here, and now's the time to get rid of any of this stuff. See, this little tiny spot was in there. So now's the time to get rid of anything like that out of your jar. You want your food to be pretty. Okay, we're just gonna, as they say when you're doing shampoo, rinse and repeat. We're gonna put the hot lid on. Hot ring. Tighten it down part way. Lift the jar up. I put it in the cloth. I then finger tighten it down. That means not putting your whole hand down. That means just however tighten you can tighten it with your fingers. Then I get my jar lifter and I'm going to carry it in the towel over to the canner. Alright, I'm not going to have you sit and watch me fill all these jars. Let me just tell you that, just in case this crazy thing cuts it off, because it's notorious for doing that, is that we're going to go ahead and we're going to water bath can these for 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, I'm going to come back and we're going to raise the lid and then we're going to remove the jars. I'm going to put the jars on this towel here I've got on the counter that's double thickness, and we're going to let them sit overnight. After I get them, after they've been sitting for 24 hours or overnight, then what I'm going to do is that I will write, I'm going to call this just apple chunks, because it's, I mean, it'll still work really good like in a fried apple pie or with apple, to put on the side of like pork or to make fried apples with. It's still going to be just as good. And anyway, I'm going to put apple chunks on it. I'm going to put today's date. Just to let y'all see, and I'll link to the video where I did this, but here's the chow chow that we did yesterday. Show you, this is how I mark the lids with a Sharpie. But you see that chow chow turned out really nice, and we got 16 pints of the chow chow. Alright, so let me go ahead and get the rest of these jars filled, and we'll see what happens. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, just let me tell you, God bless America. Pray for our country. Share this with somebody. Let somebody know about me. We're really working hard to try to build this channel. God bless America. Vivian Ann on the side of the mountain in Northeast Tennessee. Okay, y'all, I'm going to take you off the ledge because it's getting dark here in the kitchen. We have let the canner go where it has been working now. It did the canning or the processing for 20 minutes. I have set the timer so that I get to where y'all can see maybe the timer. We're just about at a minute on the timer. Sorry about that. I wanted to show you this right here. This is the pot. And this is some of the sauce that's still left, or the syrup that's still left. It's got little pieces of apple in it. So what I'm going to do is that when I start the apple jelly, I'm going to go ahead and use the syrup that's in here. So it's not going to go to waste. We're going to use that in the apple jelly. We're down to just a few seconds left on our timer, on our pot here. Say it's been working really hard. Hang on just a second while we go and put this up. It's always exciting. Oh, it's always exciting when the timer goes off. So, just let y'all see. There's a jar of our apples. Okay, we're going to go ahead and put it over here on the towel. I'm not a very good photographer when it comes this way. We got it on the towel. We're going to get the rest of them off. Just to let you all know that we got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 7 pints out of those apples. So let's think about this for a second. We got 7 pints. All it cost me was the 3 cups of sugar, the 3 tablespoons of lemon juice, the little bit of propane that it took to use the stove, and my time. And from that, we had the beginning of 7 meals because of somebody's generosity. Yeah. We also had the cost of 7 one-time lids. So the lids are about 15 cents a piece. And so we've probably got under 20 cents a jar, or right around 20 cents a jar. And I'll figure it out and I'll put it down below. I'll figure out exactly how much it cost me per pint to do this. Now that's with the understanding that I didn't have to pay for the apples. So hopefully next year, because we've got our apple trees in, that we'll be able to use our own apples to make the applesauce. That's going to be great. We've also got peach trees, 3 different kinds of peach trees out in the garden. The sound of happiness. So, there again, let me just finish this all up with, thank you all so much for coming to this channel. Hopefully you learned something today. Don't let anything go to waste. Happy canning.